We like the heroic movie version of life, right? We like the slow motion flag shot waving, uh, the swelling music. But Memorial Day asks us to do something way harder. And it asks us to mourn. It asks us to look at that cost. It asks us to admit that our freedoms were preserved by people who lost everything. That kind of remembrance should humble us, not puff us up, not make us arrogant, not make us worship the state, but humble us. Because there's a big difference between patriotism and idolatry. What if I told you Memorial Day was not created for hot dogs, mattress sales, and 3-day weekends? What if I told you it began with flowers on graves, with widows, with mothers, with children standing beside headstones that had names carved into them, but no fathers were coming home? What if I told you that one of the most dangerous things a nation can do is forget? Forget the people who died so that nation could keep breathing. Because Memorial Day is not just a holiday, it is a test of memory, a test of gratitude, a test of whether America still understands that liberty is not free, peace is not guaranteed, and freedom does not survive in a culture that cannot remember what it costs. Today on Broadcasting Seeds, we are digging into Memorial Day, Decoration Day, the Civil War roots of American remembrance, the sacred power of honoring the dead, and the uncomfortable question we need to ask ourselves as Americans today. Have we become a nation that enjoys the benefits of sacrifice while forgetting the people who made it? Welcome back to Broadcasting Seeds. I'm Bennett Tanton, and today this episode is a little different. This is not going to be a political rant. It is not going to be a shallow patriotic speech, and it is definitely not going to be one of those let's all remember the troops moments. That sounds nice for 5 seconds, but then it just disappears the second the grill gets fired up. No. Today, we are talking about Memorial Day, not Veterans Day, not Armed Forces Day, Memorial Day, the day set aside to honor those who died in service to this country, the ones who did not get to come home, the ones whose families got a folded flag instead of an actual reunion with their loved ones, the ones whose stories ended so that our stories, other stories, could continue. And I think we need to talk about this because America, frankly, has a memory problem. We remember trends, we remember scandals, we remember sports stats, right? We remember celebrity drama, we remember the algorithm. But do we remember the dead? Do we remember the people buried in national cemeteries, small town graveyards, and foreign soil, and forgotten family plots? Do we remember the Civil War soldiers who gave birth to this day of remembrance. Do we remember Marines, soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardians, the Coast Guardmen who died in wars that most Americans now only know through movies and freaking memes and half-remembered history classes? That is what we are digging into today, because remembrance is not nostalgia. Remembrance is spiritual discipline. And forgetting is not harmless, folks. It's not harmless. Memorial Day was born from grief. It actually began as Decoration Day. That name matters. So Decoration Day was not about decorating homes and cars or storefronts. It was about decorating graves. Flowers were laid on the resting places of soldiers who died in the Civil War. That war tore the country apart and left more than these numbers, 620,000 dead. Think about that number for 1 second. That is not just a statistic. That was fathers, sons, brothers, husbands, neighbors, and friends. General John A. Logan, leader of the Grand Army of the Republic, issued a call in 1868 for Americans to decorate the graves of Union soldiers. The first major national observance happened in May 30th, 1868. That is the historical root. But the emotional root is way deeper. I mean, America was straight up bleeding. I talk about this in an episode I did on Gettysburg not that long ago. Go check it out. But America was bleeding. I mean, families were shattered because brothers fought on opposite sides of this fight. In many instances, communities were split. The country had survived, but survival came with a graveyard attached to it. So the people went to the cemeteries and they brought flowers and they spoke names. They remembered. There's something powerful about that, because in Scripture, memory is not passive, it's active. The people of Israel were constantly told to remember. Remember the Lord. Remember the covenant. Remember the deliverance from Egypt. Remember what happened when you forgot. In other words, memory is not just about the past. Memory actually shapes the future. When a nation forgets rightly, it starts living wrongly. And then, so Waterloo, New York, and the battle over memory. And here is where this gets interesting for us in New York. Waterloo, New York is officially recognized as one of the birthplaces of Memorial Day. And in 1966, New York State recognized Waterloo by proclamation, and Congress followed with recognition that same year. Now, there are other communities that claim earlier observances. That is part of the story. Memorial Day did not fall out of the sky, fully formed, okay? It rose up from local acts of grief and remembrance across the country. Different towns honored their dead, different families decorated graves, different communities created rituals. And honestly, that makes the story more powerful, because Memorial Day was not invented by a marketing team or an agency. It was not built by a brand strategist, right? It was not cooked up by a government office trying to create a 3-day weekend. It came from the people. It came from grief. It came from widows and veterans and families who understood that if the dead were not remembered, the living would become careless. That is the real warning. A nation does not usually forget all at once. It forgets slowly, one sale at a time, one party at a time, and sadly, one generation at a time, until the sacred becomes ordinary, until sacrifice becomes just absolute background noise, until Memorial Day becomes the unofficial start of summer, right? And listen, I'm not against barbecues. Do people that look like this, they're not against grilled meat, folks. I am a big fan of grilled meat. I am not trying to outlaw hamburgers here. Let's not get freaking crazy. But if the barbecue replaces the grave, frankly, we have a problem. The difference between Memorial Day and Veterans Day. This is where a lot of people get confused, and people look at me and be like, thank you for your service. And absolutely, my pleasure. But Veterans Day honors all those who served. Another one, Armed Forces Day honors those currently serving. Memorial Day, today, honors those who died in service. And that difference matters. Memorial Day is not primarily about thanking living veterans, although you should thank veterans every day. Most veterans will tell you that. It is about remembering the fallen, that empty chair and the folded flag, or the name on the wall, the stone in the cemetery. The family that kept living after someone they loved did not come home. And this is important because we live in a culture that likes inspiration, but they avoid grief at all costs. We like the heroic movie version of life, right? We like the slow motion flag shot waving, the swelling music, but Memorial Day asks us to do something way harder. And it asks us to mourn. It asks us to look at that cost. It asks us to admit that our freedoms were preserved by people who lost everything. That kind of remembrance should humble us, not puff us up, not make us arrogant, not make us worship the state, but humble us. Because there's a big difference between patriotism and idolatry, folks. Patriotism says, I love my country and I honor those who sacrificed for it. That's patriotism. Idolatry says my country can do no wrong. Memorial Day should not make us blind. It should make us sober. I believe there's a spiritual war against remembrance. Here's the broadcasting seeds part, okay? There is a spiritual war against memory. I really believe that because people who remember are harder to manipulate. People who remember the cost of freedom are really hard to enslave because people who remember sacrifice are harder to turn into shallow consumers. People who remember their dead are harder to detach from their inheritance. That is why every totalitarian system attacks memory. It rewrites history. It destroys and tears down monuments. it changes the language. It changes, it mocks tradition. And it severs people from their fathers and mothers. It teaches every generation to despise the one before it. And eventually, people no longer know who they are. This is not an accident. A memoryless people are absolutely simple, so easy to control. So this is one of the reasons Memorial Day matters. Not because America is perfect, because we're not. And because humans are not perfect. America is not perfect. Not because every war was wise, because it wasn't. It's not. They still aren't. Every war was not wise. Not because every leader is righteous or was righteous, because they are not. But because the people who died are not abstractions. These are not policy positions. They are not hashtags, man. They're human beings. They were human beings. And many of them believed they were standing between their home and something worse. And I'm sorry, that deserves reverence. It freaking deserves at least a moment of silence. It deserves memory. The National Moment of Remembrance. So, every Memorial Day at 3 p.m., local time, whatever time that is, Americans are encouraged to pause for a national moment of remembrance. Just 1 minute, folks. 60 freaking seconds. And that sounds small. But in a distracted age, silence is rebellion. In a noisy age, remembrance, frankly, is warfare. In a culture addicted to movement, stopping becomes sacred. So here's my challenge to you. On Memorial Day, enjoy your family. Eat the food. Laugh with your people. Be freaking grateful. But at 3 p.m., stop. Put your phone down. Turn the music off. Tell your kids what the day actually means. Say a prayer if you are inclined. Speak the names of those that you may know. If, anyone that you may know. And if you do not know any names, then remember the unknowns. The ones buried far from home. The ones lost at sea. The ones whose bodies were never, ever recovered. And the ones whose families never got answers. The ones whose stories ended in mud, sand, jungle, snow, ocean, fire, and steel. I beg you, give them 1 minute, because they gave everything. They gave you everything. So do not, on this Memorial Day, do not let the machine steal the meaning. Do not let the sales, the noise, the algorithms, the politics, or the distractions turn a sacred day into just another long weekend. Memorial Day began with graves, with flowers, with names, with a nation trying to remember what war had taken from it. And maybe that is exactly what we need again. Not performative patriotism, folks. Not empty slogans, not shallow outrage, but actual remembrance, real remembrance. The kind that actually humbles you. I know that's hard for some people. The kind that makes you freaking grateful. Gratitude. The kind that makes you ask, am I living in a way that honors what was actually handed to me? Because that's inherited. Because freedom is inherited. But it is not automatic. Liberty can pass down, but it can also absolutely be squandered. The first step towards losing it is forgetting what it actually cost. Remember that we all have skin in the game. This has been Broadcasting Seeds. If this episode made you think, share it with someone who needs to hear it before Memorial Day becomes just another sale, another cookout, or another day off. And this Memorial Day, today, at 3 p.m., I need you to pause. Remember the fallen. Some of these guys are my friends. Some of them are my family. Say a prayer. And then I challenge you to live like the sacrifice actually meant something. Have a good day.
There's a flag beside a name in a field outside of town, where the morning comes up quiet and the whole world settles down. There's a mother with her hand on a stone she knows too well, and the words she never got to say are louder than the bells. And we keep moving faster, like the past is just a ghost. But some names were carved in marble, so we never let them go. So before the flowers fade, before the weekend disappears, before the smoke and summer songs wash away the reason we are here, say their names out loud, let the silence have its place. We are standing in the freedom they never got to taste. Before the flowers fade, there's a folded piece of heaven in a box upon the shelf, and a picture in the hallway of a kid who looked like hell. But he smiled like he was fearless, rode home when he could, said, "Don't worry, Mom, I'm doing fine," like every soldier would. Now the years keep turning pages, and the headlines come and go, but some stories end in sacrifice, so somebody else gets home. So before the flowers fade, before the weekend disappears, before the smoke and summer songs wash away the reason we are here, say their names out loud, let the silence have its place. We are standing in the freedom they never got to taste. Before the flowers fade, maybe we've been sleeping, maybe we forgot that liberty has fingerprints and freedom has a cost. And maybe every headstone is a warning and a prayer, saying live like it still matters, live like someone left you there. And I don't want to waste it, I don't want to look away from the ones who gave tomorrow for the breath I took today. So before the flowers fade, before the weekend disappears, before the smoke in summer songs wash away the reason we are here. Say their names out loud, let the silence have its place. We are standing in the freedom they never got to taste. Before the flowers fade, before the years erase, before we lose the meaning of the stones and folded flags. Say their names out loud, let the silence have its place. We are standing in the freedom they never got to taste. Before the flowers fade, there's a flag beside a name in a field outside of town. And if memory is holy, then we kneel on sacred ground.